Hey Lightweights, today I am going to be reacting to something a little bit different, but obviously I recently finished Bloodborne and I mentioned that I really wanted to learn more about the lore because I was super intrigued, but at the end of the day I don't think I really understood what was going on. And there's clearly a very deep world here with immense amounts of lore, so I really wanted to make sure that I understood it and did it justice. So I'm going to be reacting to what you guys all told me about, which was, and I apologize if I butcher this name, but Vaatividya apparently has a ton of different lore videos. So I'm going to start with the Bloodborne story explained video of his. That's the shorter one. There was like a 40-minute one and a 15-minute one. So I'm going to start with the 15-minute one, which is the one I will be reacting to in this video. And then if you guys want to see me react to the other lore videos, because it also looks like they did like specific character lore videos. Obviously they have the longer one, or if there's other people who have videos that you would like to see me react to, let me know in the comments below and I'd be happy to react to those as well. I'm also really excited. I haven't had a chance to read them yet, but I was gifted these Bloodborne comics, I guess, graphic novels. I haven't had a chance to look at them at all. Okay, apparently they come with little... Oh my god, that's so cute. But I was gifted these off of my throne wish list, so thank you so much to TZ for gifting me these. So I don't know if these are going to give me more lore, if these are offshoot stories. I have no idea. But regardless, I'm really excited to take a deep dive into all things Bloodborne now that I have finished the game, and just to learn a little bit more about what was going on. I'm going to have to hang these up on the wall. These are so cute. Cool. Okay, anyways, so let's watch this together, shall we? And obviously I'll put the link to the original video in the description. And yeah, thank you for recommending this channel to me, because there was a ton of lore for, it looks like, just every Soulsborne game you would want to play. All right, here we go.
Your character arrived in Yharnam from a faraway land, seeking a cure for some unnamed illness. You sign a contract, take blood, and become a hunter of the dream, tasked with ending the spreading scourge of beasts. Like many hunters before you, your consciousness is now bound to the hunter's dream, and you are able to project yourself into the waking world of Yharnam. At the end of the game, the nameless moon presence descends. This is a great one, an elder being that beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. And you're here now asking why? Well, let me tell you the story up until this point.
What outfit is that? I want that outfit.
It all began in the tombs below Yharnam. Once, what we now call Chalice Dungeons contained an entire civilization. It consisted of the Pthumerians and the Great Ones. The Pthumerians were a humanoid race, but the Great Ones were far from it. Each Great One is bizarre, unique, and trying to pin down their motivations as a species or individually is fairly futile. The only thing that's clear about them is this: the Great Ones, like any other race, want to reproduce, but for them, it's difficult. Each Great One appears to be truly unique, and since that makes mating impossible, they impregnate their subjects instead.
Oh.
The Ring of Betrothal states that in the age of the Great Ones, certain Pthumerians were permitted to bear a special child. This union was a blood contract, our first reference to the blood of the Great Ones. Most of these births failed, but some didn't.
Was that in the Chalice Dungeon?
At some point, the Great Ones ascended. We know this because there are multiple references to some Great Ones being left behind. The Great Ones moved on to the Nightmare Realm, and the Pthumerians were left alone, destined to watch over the physical remains of the slumbering Great Ones. In time, the Pthumerian civilization fell to the plague of beasts. Perhaps it was something in the blood. Eventually, a group of Byrgenwerth scholars stumbled upon this place, and the events of Bloodborne were set into motion. The scholars discovered the old blood of the Great Ones, a miraculous substance that made their dream of evolution a reality. The school of Byrgenwerth was headed by Master Willam. An ambitious, yet cautious man, Willam desired to ascend to a higher plane of existence, and believed that the knowledge of the Great Ones would lead him there. On the other hand, one of Willam's associates, Lawrence, believed that mankind could ascend through use of the old blood, the blood of the Great Ones. Lawrence seems headstrong and rash, where Willam advised caution. When we inspect the skull after defeating Vicar Amelia, this is the conflict we see.
No, but you will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
Lawrence tells Willam he will always fear the Old Blood, yet he goes on to found the Healing Church, a faith built upon the miraculous Old Blood. Meanwhile, Willam remains behind at Byrgenwerth and decides to pursue alternate methods to Ascension. Lawrence and his church were central to the power in Yharnam. Perhaps they even built the place. Blood ministers doled out the miraculous healing blood to the populace, and the city evolved to reflect that. People came from far and wide, just like you did, for the chance to be healed. The Yharnamites whose doors you knock on are quite arrogant and proud, and dislike outsiders. However, after the Old Blood was introduced into the populace, people began turning into beasts.
You stop right there. Not an inch closer.
In response, the church founded the Hunter's Workshop, with Gehrman at its head. Gehrman's methods defined beast hunting. He abandoned the notion of armor and dressed instead for speed and agility. With a firearm in one hand and adaptable melee weapon in the other, the forces of the workshop became the city's primary defense against the beastly threat. Perhaps the workshop was even a secret organization, for item descriptions note that they worked under the cover of night, and the location of the workshop was certainly difficult to find. In time, the workshop would be abandoned in favor of the black and white church hunters. Perhaps Gehrman's workshop failed in keeping the scourge a secret. Perhaps the church required a more intimidating approach. Whatever the case, the hunters were fighting for something, and it wasn't just to keep the populace safe. Turns out, the Hunter's Workshop was just one of 3 branches of the church. The others were the choir and Mikolash's School of Mensis. The choir existed to continue the work that began at Byrgenwerth, namely the pursuit of insight by way of communion with the Great Ones. The choir's work eventually led them to an audience with Abritas, a left-behind Great One. The School of Mensis was, as the name implies, devoted to research and learning, and while item descriptions state that Mensis was allied with the Healing Church, in our adventures it becomes clear that the school is responsible for most of the problems in this world. In Bloodborne, it's difficult to point to a main antagonist, but if I had to, I'd point to Mikolash, who was the head of the School of Mensis. Somehow, Mikolash got his hands on the umbilical cord of a Great One. These cords are very important. For simplicity's sake, think of these umbilical cords as powerful relics that enable contact with the Great Ones. There are 3 of these umbilical cords in-game, and they are used by 3 of the main characters. One cord was found by Mikolash, head of the School of Mensis. One cord is held by Willam back in Byrgenwerth, and another cord went to Gehrman of the Hunter's Workshop. Mikolash used his cord to perform a great ritual. It ripped a lecture hall of Mensis into the Nightmare Realm so that they could be granted audience with a being named Murgo. It is believed that Murgo is the child of a Great One, birthed through Yharnam, the Pthumerian queen. There is little known about his power, his origins, or his significance, so just know for now that Mensis wanted audience with Murgo, but that this audience came at a great cost. A note in the village reads, "The Mensis ritual must be stopped, lest we all become beasts." Willam used his cord to, and I quote, "elevate his being and thoughts to those of a Great One by lining his brain with eyes." In the lake below him, we come across Rom, the vacuous spider. Many descriptions in-game tell us that this spider hides all manner of rituals. In particular, though, it seems that the spider is holding back the effects of the Mensis ritual. When Rom is gone, a blood moon descends, blurring the line between beast and man. After this event, we find the path to Yahar'gul open, so our character can go through and silence the harrowing cries of Murgo, the infant Great One.
I love how I
third
butchered
umbilical
every
cord
single name in
found
this
its
game.
way into Gehrman's hands. After his Hunter's Workshop disbanded, Gehrman was alone and unimportant. His only companion was this doll, which he appears to have crafted with love and care. Perhaps this doll's creator had wished for such a friend, albeit in vain. His chord reads, "The great ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit, and often answer when called upon." This third chord summoned the moon presence, a great one which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. Gurman got what he wanted, a companion and a purpose, but he becomes a puppet, endlessly finding and guiding hunters through the dream and out into the world, assumedly under the influences and desires of the moon presence. So, to recap, Mikolash, whose character is ever ambitious to ascend and become a great one, used his chord to establish contact. He sacrificed his school of Mensis and brought the consequences of that contact upon the world. Willam, ever cautious, used his chord and rom to mask the effects of that ritual. And Gurman, lonely and lacking purpose, became a puppet to another great one named the Moon Presence. He guides hunters through this dream and out into a few select locations. The hunter's dream ends when you successfully hunt down Murgo and his nightmare of Mensis, suggesting that Mensis was the root of the scourge of beasts, and perhaps that the Moon Presence wanted the child of another great one dead. When you silence Murgo, you return to the workshop on fire. The dream's purpose is fulfilled. You approach Gurman, host of this hunter's dream, and he tells you that he has the power to free you. If you choose this option, you are unbound from the dream. You lived through the hunt and saw the sunrise over Yharnam. If you reject Gurman, the Moon Presence decides it needs another host for its dream. You become captivated by the Moon Presence and pledge to watch over the hunter's dream. But there is a third option, Ascension. When the conditions are right for a great one to be born, the mother and child can be harvested for an umbilical cord. But all great ones lose their children and yearn for a surrogate child instead, a replacement. Mikolash, Willam, Gurman, they all found umbilical cords somewhere in the past and used them for their own needs, but ultimately each of them was unsuccessful in the contact that they had with the Great Ones. However, the notes of the Bergenworth scholars contain this information. 3 third chords. Hunt the Great Ones. Hunt the Great Ones. If you consume 3 chords, you can resist becoming the Moon Presence's captive. Instead, you hunt the Moon Presence, and afterward, you become an infant Great One, living inside the dream the Moon Presence conceived. You manage to ascend, as no one else before you did, and you will lift humanity into its next childhood.
Is that a good thing, though? Oh, I definitely need to watch the longer one because I still have questions. Wow. There is still so much more for me to learn. That's really interesting, though. Like, I guess I didn't realize outsiders came to take the blood to heal. So that one guy that was our friend in the window that gave us the flamethrower at the very beginning, who we assumed was turning into a beast, and then we saw him later turn into the beast. He traveled there, I'm assuming, to be healed by the blood. That's really cool. And then, wow. Okay. The fact that someone was able to put all those pieces together, because even watching that, I'm still confused, and they had to do that on, okay. Definitely need to watch the bigger one, the longer one. The lore is just fascinating, and to be the brain that came up with that. I always say, like, when I watch Christopher Nolan films, I would love to be a fly on the wall during that creative process. Same thing with this, because the lore is just so deep. How do you conceive all of that? It's just amazing. And it's almost sad. I mean, it's very cool, but it's also sad that probably a lot of people beat the game and like, oh, that was cool, and then they just don't care about the lore and they don't take time to learn about it, because there's so much there to learn about. So it's almost like a big chunk of people are missing out on one of the coolest parts of the game, in my opinion. But that also makes it cool because it's very rewarding if you actually like take your time to read all of the descriptions and listen to all of the dialogue and watch all of those cutscenes. Not that I made sense of what I was reading or listening to or seeing, but you know, it's more rewarding when you do. So yeah, it's just fascinating. Okay, so I need to watch a lot more, learn a lot more. If there's other videos you would like me to react to, please let me know in the comments below, because I would like to eat all of this up, just like I did the umbilical cords. Thank you all for joining me on my Bloodborne journey, and if this happens to be the first video you've seen, check out my Bloodborne playthrough and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.